Welcome to my first success show, where we interview everyone about their first success. My name is Shane Hiralal, and I'll be your host today. The main theme behind the show is to get the practical and valuable golden nuggets and tips that help them get their first success, with a view to inspire you to also get your first success. Our guest today is a man that I have a lot of respect for and I truly appreciate. He is the number one wealth and business coach, serial entrepreneur, property investor, equity investor, and international speaker. He's one of the hardest working people that I know and is constantly innovating and just knows how to get results. He's my coach and my mentor, who's not just transformed my life and my thinking, but hundreds of thousands of people's lives too. He's very inspirational and very, very busy. So thank you, JT Foxx, and welcome. And thank you for being on my show today.
Thank you. Honor. First on your show. This is a very big thing. It's funny. We haven't seen each other since the pandemic started. So when the world
Yeah,
will open up and even they listen 10 years from now and they watch this interview, they'll say, even though we've been apart, it's felt like it was the first time we met when we first met. So
that's
it's a
right.
very, you bring back a lot of memories, although you had a very different COVID experience than we did in the United States. So very different world. So
This
hopefully
was
we
probably
come
about
together very,
three
very
years
soon.
ago.
And next time, do this in person.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Absolutely. It's probably been 3 years ago now that from the last time
Oh,
I
you
met
first
you.
met, yeah. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
very well.
time flies. So JT, for all the listeners out there, what was your first success and how did it arrive or how did it materialize for you?
I mean, it really depends how you define success. I mean, my definition of success has always been, am I a better person today than I was yesterday? Will I be a better person tomorrow than I was today? I mean, the first success, would it be like when I moved from Canada to the United States, even though I was broke and I had $974 to my name, but it was that act of going an act of success. Or I would argue your first deal. Everyone's worried about the cars, the planes, the jet, the lifestyle, but your first deal, your first client, your first opportunity, I would argue that that would be there. Was it when I made my first million at the age of 24, or my second million at 24, or my first 10 million by the time I was 28? And I don't know, like you just, I think whenever you achieve that success, it's always like next goal, right? You never settle for that success, because I think one of the worst things for entrepreneurs to be too comfortable. And the minute you're too comfortable is the minute you go down.
Absolutely. No, that is so true. Success, I guess, is it just depends on the person and what they value in terms of all those examples you gave. So thanks for that. So for a lot of people, especially in today's trying world, they struggle to succeed. It is very difficult to be consistent in their business, to take action, and to just get things done. What is your daily motivation to get out of bed and to show up to succeed?
Well, I always tell people, stop talking about it, get it done. And excuses are nothing more than a reason to fail. And I think a lot of times people have excuses why they can't do things. And if you have 50 good days in a year, you're going to be a millionaire. You have to realize most days are not good days as an entrepreneur. There's problems, issues, drama, deal falls apart, deals that never consummated, people letting you down, people being disloyal, clients being a pain in the butt. But then there's you fighting through. And I think people quit too early. I'm not a quitter. I think it's all about finding that inner fire inside and saying, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. And I will have no excuses. So that's what drives me, to be constantly striving to become the best version of myself.
It's a daily ask, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, because life is hard. Business is hard. Like it's
Yeah.
not, we'll make it seem like it's easy. I think adversity builds character. It reveals who you are. Success does not reveal who you are. I think that's a big mistake that people does. I think your character, I think how you overcome adversity, how you block up the fear, because fear is the biggest killer of opportunities.
Yeah. How do you get that mental toughness? Because with, especially the pandemic of COVID, mental health is quite an issue. How do you build that resilience and that mental acumen in terms of showing up every day?
Well, the question is that, I mean, I know it sounds like, I think personally that
Mm,
my desire to live and succeed is stronger than my desire to quit. And I'm not saying mental illness is not an issue. It's
yeah.
just for me, you have to push through.
Mhm.
because I refused to quit. And I've had a couple bad days during the pandemic, which just there's no motivation. It's just like, like that.
So it's your why in terms of, why
I
do you
mean,
get up every
and
day?
part of the problem is I have a lot of money, so you're at home, you're not going anywhere. Maybe it'd been different if I didn't have any money and then I have to push through. It's easy once you have success to become too comfortable. And that's why you always have to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
When I had down days, I would speak to my coaches. I would bounce ideas off of them as well.
Yeah.
I think now that I'm vaccinated and, oh my God, I said vaccinated. If I have a third eye or a third arm, and I could see better and I could do more, right? But it's amazing how that that vaccination just, okay, now I'm back to normal.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and it wasn't for me, it was for the people around me, because I would
Mm.
hate to say someone died because they got COVID from me.
Yeah.
The chances of me dying are relatively low, but what about loved ones? What about people around you? What about your parents?
Mm.
So and there are people who went out who really did not care, right? They'll be
That's
like,
true.
you may not want to wear a mask, but it's not about you. It's for others around you, right?
This is
You
true.
may not think it's real, but other people think it's real. So my respect for others was stronger than my own desire. So I think that's I show
Yeah.
more empathy.
No, absolutely.
But even in Australia, that if you lived in Melbourne and Brisbane and Sydney, those were all different experiences. I mean, Melbourne had massive amount of lockdown, right?
In
You
lockdown
saw,
again right now from last night for
yeah,
like 7
exactly.
days.
I
Mm.
saw, some
Yeah.
club, some word about some Indian variant, but it's like, what do they do in these quarantine hotels? So that's
It's
so
crazy.
yeah.
So
So there's
JT,
go ahead.
yeah, no. Thanks for that. So before your first success in terms of your business success, had you ever experienced failure before, and how did you deal with that? Because what advice would you give, say, your younger self or anyone struggling to overcome fear, to overcome anxiety, to overcome worry through that experience of failure?
I would tell people it's okay to fail as long as you don't repeat the same mistake again, right? I think the expectation that people don't fail, I think that's completely wrong. We all fail, but the idea is to fail forward.
Mm.
A wise man learns from his mistakes, while a genius learns from other people's mistakes. So learn from other people's mistakes and use failure as a way to make yourself better rather than debilitate you. And often it's not failure debilitates us, it's other people saying, see, I told you you were going to fail, the opinions of others.
That's right. Off the back of that failure, for example, if I'm pursuing something or someone is pursuing something and they keep failing in that particular area, how do you know where the fine line is to draw, where you know that it's not working for you and you should cut it off and diversify to something else? It's a very fine line, but how do you know
To be
where?
honest with you, I don't think you're the person to say that. I
Hmm.
think a coach that is unbiased, that'd be like, maybe it's not, or you know what, you haven't done enough. And because you may think you've done everything, but you haven't. You may think that you have not done enough, but you have. And that's why I still have 4 coaches to bounce off these ideas.
Hmm. That's right. So it's really important to have coaches to sort of.
Heroes, mentors, and coaches to tell you what to do, what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's so true. How do you, JT, stay focused and make decisions? Because there's a saying, or it's more like a joke, that I never seem to be able to get things done. I seem to have a master's degree in partial arts because they just can't get stuff done, even those
Uh,
focusing on 1,000 things. Mm.
Yeah, it's a procrastination. I make a decision. What's the best thing? What's the worst thing? What's the most likely? 5, 4, 3,
Mm.
2, 1, decide. It takes insane courage to make decisions in 5 seconds because I go with my gut and on to the next one. Procrastination just means no. Let me think about it just means no. That's all it is.
A lot of people do struggle with that, just the art of decision making, even to buy a new phone, to compare a new laptop, just
Because they're
thinking,
afraid of making a
researching.
mistake. It's a fear based. They're afraid of making a mistake. They're afraid of the cost. They're afraid of what if it doesn't work out. So they're afraid of all the things that can go wrong rather than all the things that can go right.
So it's more about thinking about, as you said, three, two, one, decide. Are you thinking with your head? Are you thinking with your heart? Or are you
Your gut. Yeah.
thinking with your gut? And you just
Correct.
have to trust the process that that is the right decision.
Correct.
Mm.
Correct.
That's true, because I think everyone no one takes action because they just get stuck in that research mode.
Correct.
Mm. So in line with the previous question in terms of focus and decision, time. as we know it today, is just becoming more and more of a luxury, and it's just becoming more and more scarce. JT, how do you manage your time, and how would you help people to take a step back and look at how they can manage their time better?
I mean, I make sure every 5 minutes of my time is scheduled out. It's not about time management. It's about managing your energy. A lot of it starts with not a to-do list, but a stop doing list. Stop doing things that don't advance you, that you think it's faster if you do it yourself, and focus on your to-be list. I must be before I can do.
Mm, 100%, 100%. So the stop doing list could be things like, do you have any
Stop,
examples?
stop going to the store. Stop cutting your own grass. Stop doing work around the house. Well, so I like doing it. You may like that, but that's taking away from doing the core stuff that's going to grow. 99% of the time, people are wasting their time. But if they spend 100% of the time on the 1% that matters, it's really going to change their lives.
That is true, because most people spend 3 hours, a half a day at the grocery store when they can just order online and get it delivered. So there's 3 hours to spend on your business. I like that. There's a hot topic in today's current environment of how do you build confidence, because there's a lot of things happening out there in the world. So where did you get your confidence from, and how does one pursue greatness when in their eyes they don't feel great, or they just don't see themselves as great, but they have this fire in their belly that they want to be someone or do something? And how do they generate that confidence from within?
Well, confidence comes from competence. The more you do something, the more competent. Anything you do for the first time is scary. But after you do it over and over again, you become competent, which then will lead to you becoming confident. So the more you do something, the more confident you'll become. And the minute you become confident, that's when success is. So if there's a breakdown in the competence level and there's a breakdown in the confidence level, then there will be no success, which means you'll never be able to become significant and leave a legacy.
That makes sense, because people are stuck here with information. They're just researching and not doing, but you need to do and get over the fear of failure. And when you fail, you learn, and then you just basically, the more you do things, what you're saying, you get more competent in that. And then you're like, oh, actually, I got this. And onwards and forwards from that.
Correct.
So true. Okay. You always used to say, you should spend 70% of your time building relationships and networking. And there isn't obviously a self-made man, woman, or entrepreneur. You need to find, the team around you. How do you know what relationship is worth pursuing or investing your time and efforts in? Because, we can all go on LinkedIn and just network with people, but what's that strategic edge of thinking of pursuing and, really making your time worth it?
It takes one person, one deal, one opportunity to change your life forever. One door opens 10 doors. So why not spend the time that's actually going to be the most amount of impact? And that's building that relationship. Because people know people. You infiltrate circle of influences. So it's kind of this power vacuum of success that ends up happening.
So it's a case of like, how do I know that let's say I'm talking to a potential client, is the thinking behind it that I need to, am I going to monetize this particular person? Am I going to help this particular person? Or what is the rationale behind, because you could have 5 different people that you're talking to, but you need to strategically be like, okay.
Well, everybody's depends what they want. Sometimes there's no business to be done with that person, but they know other people. Sometimes it's maintaining a relationship because you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes there's immediate benefit as well. So the more hands you shake, the more money you make is a good quote that I heard from somebody as well. Now, but different stories. So you don't know until you know. And the more quality relationships you have, I think the more likely you are to put yourself in a situation to win at the game of life and business.
That's a good one. So just a couple of other questions I had for you. What is the single most important thing that you feel is required in running a successful business? If you could pick one thing.
I think your ability to scale. Most people don't know how to scale. Multiple streams of income with no water going through it as well. Knowing how to scale, not working in your business, but working on your business.
Because what's interesting about that is someone asked me, for example, like if you've got reinvesting profits, like how do you know when you should reinvest the profits or when you should potentially go out and try and find funding?
Up to your first 10 million, you should reinvest your profits. I mean, depending on the business and the type of business as well, you should keep doubling down on yourself.
That's a good one. Okay. So JT, a few questions just about you as a person. So
I like 5 minutes over late for my next meeting. So like, I'll do it. Just let you, I'm like, Just talk about time management. My phone's blowing up.
Sure. That's right. So I guess what is the, like what's your take on sleep, and how many hours of sleep do you get? Or does it depend on
6 hours.
6 hours of sleep? Okay. How much Netflix do you watch or social media do you watch per week?
Not too much. I mean, I usually fall asleep with, I call broke flicks, because they should be listening to Millionaire Flix, and it kind of falls off. So I probably don't make it more than 12 minutes.
Okay, that's pretty good. And finally, JT, like you've known me for the last sort of 3 years. You've coached me one-on-one. We've had some video calls as well. And I met you a couple of times in Sydney. What is your opinion of me, and from what you know of me?
I think you got a lot of, I think you're great. You're very authentic. I think you're a likable person. I think you've overcome a lot. I think people underestimate you, which is a very big mistake. And also too, I haven't talked to you in about a year. So just for the record.
This is true. Now we will be talking soon for sure. No, I appreciate the time.
Now we reconnected, man. I really appreciate it, brother.
Oh, yeah. No, it was really nice.
For sure. Anything you need, I'm here for you. And I hope the audience enjoys it.
Absolutely. Thanks, JT. Take care. Thank you very much again for your time.